Well, welcome to the last installment of Tea and Tapas, everyone. Thank you for joining us. To start off today, we're going to share a little bit of some tea and tapas that those of you who are joining us might have. So if you just unmute yourself and share and tell us what you're sharing today, and we'll get started then with our session. Go ahead, Nicole.
Okay, I'll go. So I am drinking some nettle tea, a good springtime tea. Nettles, you know, the things that you sometimes encounter in the woods, and they give you that prickly, itchy feeling. Some people get more of a burn, but nettles are actually edible, and you can make tea out of them. I will admit I don't forage them myself, but you can buy them often at natural food stores, the dried leaves as tea at natural food stores, or I think sometimes even regular grocery stores, maybe in the like organic-y section. But nettles are really nutritive. Is that a word? Nutritive? Very nutritious, I guess, would be the easier way of saying it. A really nutritious spring green made into tea, or you can even eat them sometimes if they're prepared properly. So I have nettle tea here tonight for our tea and tapas.
All right, thank you. Anybody else?
Hi, folks. Tonight I am having some ramp pesto on some bagel bites. A friend of mine and her partner absolutely love going to hunt for ramps. So no, I did not collect these, but I do collect dandelions for them for wine. But yeah, so tonight I'm just having some ramp pesto. Good stuff. So wild onions.
Thanks, Melissa. And by the way, sorry for the delay in doing this. I'm apologize for my rudeness here. I do want to share that our speakers, our guests, special guests today are Susie Hobart from Lakeview Elementary in Madison and their school forest in particular, and Russel Rolffs from Gathering Ground on Washington Island. They'll be our guests today, so they will be sharing a little bit about their educational stewardship communities and how those programs evolved and what they're doing today.
I have chamomile tea. I have nothing exciting to say about it except it's a great thing to eat after or drink after a busy day.
Thank you for sharing that. All right, I'm going to share my screen again and get started. I'm just going to do a brief little share with you of my happy place and a little bit of foraging I did before we get into the guests. And then I want to make sure we have plenty of time for discussion. So any of you who have questions, you can pop those into the chat, and we'll address those as needed on the way through. Okay, I think if you spend enough time in any natural space, whether a rural or urban forest, prairie, lake, or even a tree in your backyard, it's natural for humans to develop a sense of place. And a sense of place inspires me to gather more people to that place to show them all the wonders of that space. Place connects us to our communities of stewardship. I have some photographs from one of my happy places, which is Washington Island, to share with you some of the journey to my tapas. This picture here is of a hepatica. And does anyone know what this is? Why, it's Alliaria petiolata, of course. Maybe this photo helps a little bit, or this one. Yes, it's garlic mustard, and I think we discovered it as an early infestation 2 years ago, and we're getting it under control. And so maybe possibly what attracted you to this meeting today was that we were going to talk a little bit about maybe garlic mustard and what you can do with that. I don't know about you, but I sometimes am consumed by invasive species identification wherever I go. I happen to notice them. That's kind of the curse of noticing invasive species. But while I do invasive species control, I'm always reminded of why I do invasive species control. And that's discovering more and hopefully native species. This is spotted dead nettle, or Lamium maculatum, which is invasive in some places. And so right now I'm pursuing whether or not I can let this beauty stick around. Maybe Russell knows a little bit more about it, since he's from that neck of the woods. This one is a native. It's large flower bellwort, or Uvularia grandiflora. Just a beautiful flower. This is one of my all-time favorites, bloodroot, which is Sanguinaria canadensis. I saw this while pulling garlic mustard. Hopefully none of you are disturbed by images of snakes. This is a northern water snake, Nerodia cipodon. They're part of the community too. My daughter helping me to repurpose lumber from an outdoor stairwell into a Leopold bench. Families are our first educational stewardship community, and I know many of you spend a lot of time supporting families in your schools and inviting them out to be a part of your stewardship community. Food itself is part of the community. Come late July, I start to crave these, which I gather on my morning walks with my dog Griffin. These are thimbleberries, and they have incredible flavor, but the bushes don't put on many berries, and the berries are very delicate. If they put on more berries and were easier to pick and grew in a wider niche, I think they'd be cultivated more than raspberries even. They're my absolute favorite. Two of my favorite stewardship community members who are great conservationists. We're less likely to lose our quarry with them around. This is Penny and my dog Griffin after a successful Lake Michigan duck hunt. And here's some smoke from a burn barrel that caught the morning sunshine. Smoke is a sign of recycling and renewal to me, so I had to throw that in there. And then finally to my tapas. These are the hostas of the forest, which Melissa mentioned earlier, sometimes called wild leeks. These are actually ramps, Allium tricoxum, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. But unlike hostas, the deer leave them alone. Here's what they look like when you dig them up. And my stewardship community in my house, my daughter, who goes to a school where she gets some nature studies classes, she scolded me last night for digging these up. I need to do a little more research. She said, Dad, you're supposed to just cut the leaves off. They taste just as good. You're not supposed to dig them up. And I thought, well, okay, I guess I need to learn a little bit more about that if they're getting lessons about this. But she goes to school in central Wisconsin, where I think they're less common. And I am careful to only dig up a few here and there and then let them grow back for the future. So I'm not taking them out of a whole area. So again, we're learning as we go in these stewardship communities. So my tapas to share with you is a potato leek soup. So when life gives you ramps, make soup, right? I'm going to stop sharing screen and just show you. And I will share this recipe out with everyone who attends, but I don't know if you'll be able to see this or not. There's my bowl of blended potato leek soup. So it looks kind of creamy when you use yellow potatoes. And then here's what it looks like unblended, for those of you who like a little heartier kind of soup. And that's all I really have to share with you, but my happy place is shared by one other on the screen. And Susan, if you don't mind, can Russell go first, because I know he had some other commitments. Is that okay with you? Okay. All right. So Russell is on Washington Island now, I believe, and it's a busy farm season. And I met Russell a few years ago there. And I'm going to let him tell you about his educational stewardship communities, particularly Gathering Ground, but he's involved in a whole host of other things on Washington Island. So thanks for joining us today, Russell.
Yeah, hello everybody. My name is Russell. Thanks, Steve. Steve and I connected a couple years ago around topic of garlic mustard, and he asked me to talk a little bit about what we do with it. I didn't get a chance to make any for today, but we've done a few recipes that last photo that Steve shared has the flowering heads. So the little yellow flowers, when you get them when they're still buds, so they just look like broccoli. And they're a little bit more like a rapini or a, something in that family, but they are delicious. You can eat that whole stem. You could roast it. My favorite way to prepare them is roasting them in the oven, high heat till the leaves get a little bit charred. Salt, olive oil, they're amazing. We also talked about a pesto. We've made a pesto a couple times. My recommendation, though, if you're going to alter your recipe, find any pesto recipe and just sub for basil. You can use the garlic mustard. But our experience was that the garlic mustard is a little bitter. It's a little bit more on the bitter side. So if you like that, great. If you want to kind of cut the edge of that, like a teaspoon, depending on the size batch you're making, half teaspoon of maple syrup or honey, just to give it a little bit of a softer edge for that bitterness. So yeah, garlic mustard, it's delicious. Yeah, so my name is Russell. I live on Washington Island with my wife, Alessandra. She and I first came to the island 6 years ago. We were living in Milwaukee at that time. We were both new to Wisconsin at that time. We most recently come from Chicago. Alessandra was in a PhD program there in literature. She is a poet. She's an eco-poet, so she writes poetry. That's what they call it nowadays, not nature writing, eco-poetry, I've learned. She and I came up here 2016, I think it was, to grow vegetables for Washington Island. We're still doing that. We have now our own small 1.5 acre produce farm. We also grow cut flowers, and our plums and our cherry bushes are just coming into production this year. They're flowering as we speak. It's beautiful. And so this is our this is our own personal farm. It's a for-profit business. It's called Hoop Blossom. This network of businesses is tied to Hotel Washington still. We're all independent businesses now. But Steve asked me to mention too, they were featured in a foodie episode, I think it was in April, very recently. So you can learn a little bit more there, and kind of the big mover and shaker behind it all is a woman named Jeannie Cokes, who has been coming to the island her whole life and has been a permanent resident up here now for 10 years or more. I'm happy to talk about more of any of that. We provide for Hotel Washington and also for the farmers market, and have a lot of fun doing it. Our other project, Alessandra and I co-founded a nonprofit called Gathering Ground here on Washington Island. That was 5 years ago. So we're still a young organization. We've been growing very slowly and organically because we are, well, for a lot of reasons. We wanted to be strategic. But our big picture, our vision is that what we see is communities connected to the environment and their food through work and play. And so we're really trying to blend recreation and work when we think about food. And that's why I love the conversations here about foraging, because it's work and play, right? It's all one. And this is kind of the way in that we want to develop or steward our ecological community here. Our mission statement is that we cultivate community and learning in partnership with the generous earth through agriculture. So we're an educational nonprofit. We have a lot of projects going on. We have a farm, so we have a 38 acre land base. We have a 5 acre vineyard. We're transitioning that to organic. We're hopeful that we're still going to figure it out. It's a challenge, but we're confident that we will, and we want to be able to share what we've learned in the future with growers who are wishing to do the same. And so we're pulling we're not going it alone. We're finding as many resources as we can. Someone mentioned nettle tea. We actually spray nettle tea on our vines. It's a natural fungicide. It's used in biodynamic growing quite a bit. We also have a chestnut orchard, so sweet chestnuts. This climate is very marginal for them, so we're doing some kind of experimental work a little bit. I was very encouraged to find out that so is Michigan State up in the UP in Escanaba. They about the same year that we started ours, they started a chestnut orchard. So we're looking for right now we're planting a lot of trees from orchards. They're in colder climates, and we're planting trees that ripen nuts really early because we have a short season. And so we're planting all seedlings, no grafted trees. And so they're all new genetics. Each tree is different set of genetics. And so we're trying to find a set of genetics that will grow in short climates like our own, so that we can also share those with other people. And we have sheep. We run sheep through the whole thing. And so that's a lot of fun. Our educational work that we do, sometimes it feels like all we do is the farm, and that's the focus, you know, a lot of the time. But we try to bring people into our farm work and make those experiences happen around our demonstration farm. So a key project is building a partnership with the community and the school here specifically. So every single student, K through 12 here on the island, came to Gathering Ground to do some educational projects in our chestnut orchard and in our vineyard this last week. We had a lot of fun. You might wonder, if you've ever wondered how long it takes 10 kindergartners to plant a tree, it's about an hour and a half working together. But our middle school is doing some really great work. They're doing controlled studies and collecting data. And so we're having a lot of fun. We also are trying to, as an organization, we're trying to cultivate ecotourism, agritourism on the island. The island, you know, is primarily a tourist economy. And, you know, like Door County as a whole, there's kind of a realization that, you know, the people that we need to come up here, well, we need more than people who just want to come from golf. We want people who want to come and, you know, have a really meaningful interaction with the natural world. And there's great ways to do that. You know, much of Door County is a lot like a natural park. There's a lot of community land. But another way to do that is through the food that we eat. And so we're helping to create opportunities in that area. We do a dinner in the vineyard. It's a fundraiser for us. That's held in September. It is as it sounds. We have a meal out in the vineyard that features predominantly island produced food. We offer nature or eco writing workshops at the grounds in partnership with Ride on Door County. We're doing a farm and field bike tour this year. We'll visit several farms and get to taste some from each. We do community workshops in horticulture, gardening, composting, all that stuff. We have a family activity day and an island garden tour day where tourists and residents can go visit several gardens, including Gathering Ground. Our main kind of flagship program is a summer educational program for college age or post-high school adults. Right now we call it an internship. It's a 6-week program. Students get some pay, and then they also receive instruction really in a broad spectrum of horticultural topics. And then we also do a weekly environmental studies seminar where their students have really college level reading and conversations. And we invite the island to all those experiences as well. We want to grow this project. So really we want the primary thing that Gathering Ground does to be a 9-month gap year program for post-high school students who are interested in conservation, environmental studies, ecology, and maybe are ready for college, but maybe want a little bit more experience first, or maybe you're in the middle of college and want to take a break, or maybe don't find college suitable for them, but still are passionate about these things and want to learn, but want to do more hands-on experiential type education, and that's what we're going to offer. That program, as we envision it, will be, like I said, 9 months, 6 or 9 months. We're still developing it, but it will include the summer component that there is now, but it'll be occurring all summer. And then we'll also have college level liberal arts coursework in environmental studies in the fall. So it'd be a lot like if you were in college, but there'll be communal living and producing your own food, eating from the farm directly. And so this is what this is our long-term project that we're still on the path to creating, but are very passionate about. It's kind of in the spirit of Scandinavian folk schools, where students after high school will go and have a focused course of study in some topic of their interest. The original plan behind all of that was really to develop, citizens, and we see that similarly, except we want to develop, ecological citizens. The overarching question for the program will be, how do we live on a planet in a way that that we're responsible? So that's our big vision, and I'm happy to answer any questions. But thanks for
Thank you,
listening.
Russell. Does anybody have any questions? You can unmute yourself and ask in person.
Oh, thanks for sharing the link there.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, so you can read more about us there. And if you want to make it up to the island this year, you can check out some of our programming too that will be available on our website.
Yeah, if you're there on a weekend, they have a really lovely farmers market. It's not big, but it's certainly robust, I would say, for not being big. So, that's typically people are there on the weekend, so go check it out. If you're there during the week, maybe you can stop in. You usually give tours if you've got a minute.
Yeah, that's right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Any questions? All right, Russell, if I get any in the chat or whatever, I'll forward those to you and we can connect that way.
Okay, great.
So, thank you
Thanks.
for your time.
Yeah.
Take care. All right, our next guest is Susan, or sometimes goes by Susie, I guess, Hobart from Madison. And recently I just visited with Susan over a school forest award that somebody from her school won. So maybe she's going to say a little bit more about that. I don't know, but just a lot going on at Lakeview Elementary and their school forest. And I don't want to steal your thunder. So
No, I'm just trying to get the slide up. There we go.
all right.
So so I work in a very small school in Madison, Wisconsin, and our school is basically the 2/3 of the kids that go to the school live in apartments, and over 3/4 of the kids are from lower income families. We have one of the highest percentages of diversity in the city. In our school, we have Hmong, Laotian, African, Middle Eastern, African American. So it's a very diverse school, and the school forest really is their it's their entry, because oftentimes they're the communities that are the most blocked from getting into nature. So the school forest is really the place that they get a chance to be outside. Okay,
Mode.
so the question we ask students when we go outside is using the question as a science or history lesson. Why do we have all this garlic mustard in our school forest? And when you look at the community we had a huge amount of European immigrants, and then about birds sharing the seeds like the mulberries. So we've worked a lot with students to understand, why are we managing the forest and why are we doing something in the forest? And we've taken a 3-prong approach where we involve the community and our students and their families. We have a scavenger hunt game that we play with kids, and also we've brought in the kids. So in fact, this Sunday, we have a big Day of Love work day, where there's a church in Madison that comes out and works in the community, and they'll be with us. And it clearly is one of those things where you can see the, the picture that Steve showed earlier, garlic mustard. There's a part of the forest that it just, no matter how much we take out, it just keeps coming back. So it's an opportunity to educate the kids, but also for them to get out there and for being a reason. What are they doing? They're accomplishing something. The other thing that we've done is, like I said, we have a scavenger hunt. So we've compared the villains, the invasive species, with different action figures. And they get a scavenger hunt and they get a sheet and they go out into the forest and they look for these characters. And when they see the character, they also identify the invasive species. We also do the same as part of that scavenger hunt. We also have our good guys. And so we have our superheroes and the things in our school forests that have developed because we have done a lot of invasive removal. We now have May apples and we have our oak trees are doing well, and the bellworts and Jack in the pulpits. So we show them, we connect the superhero up with the positive plants that are in the school forest. And so that's part of our scavenger hunt. The other thing that we've done for the last couple of years, and we have rented goats. And again, it's amazing how many new people have come to the school forest because they heard we had the goats. So it was a great way to not only remove invasives, but also for people to get connected to the school forest, which is in their neighborhood, or people who weren't even in the neighborhood, and families who, like I said, may not have typically walked in the school forest. Coming over to see the goats was a treat for them. And you can kind of hear the kids running around the school forest right now, chasing the kids. They're excited to eat. And it is amazing to watch the goats girdle the buckthorn, and they just they were there for 2 days, and at the end of 2 days there was nary a leaf left. So the next thing we did after they left was we had the brush cutter come in, we cut a lot of the brush, and then it's being mulched into wood chips to repurpose the school forest paths. Again, it was an educational opportunity for kids to understand why goats. How come, I mean, if a dog ate something or if a bird ate something, they'd be transplanting those seeds. Why don't goats transplant the seeds? So it was a fun activity. It got kids to come out to the school forest with their families to watch, and also at the same time helped us remove a lot of the garlic mustard, the buckthorn, the honeysuckle, the things that have kept us from seeing the positive pollinator plants and the school forest plants. So those are that's the approach that we've taken at the school. And it's been successful in the sense that the kids, they get out in the school forest, they know what garlic mustard is. And they also now are learning what those invasive plants are and how they negatively impact the understory of a old growth forest. So anyway, that's what we do. And yeah, and Sunday we'll have another work day and there'll be kids out there collecting those wonderful garlic mustard. And I guess now we have a AmeriCorps person, farmer, with us. We could ask her to take that and make some pesto.
Awesome. I'll try to get that recipe. Of course, you probably have recipes for pesto, and like Russell said, all you need to do is substitute the
Pesto for the basil.
Yeah, exactly. So you just mentioned AmeriCorps, but what are some of the key ingredients for successfully forming collaborations between the community and the school forest? Because I know you've done a lot of that.
Well, we are a community school, and by even in our name now, we're the Lakeview Community School versus the Lakeview Elementary School. We have partnerships throughout the community, and there's no doubt in my mind there's a group called Urban Tree Alliance who actually prepared a inventory of all our trees. And then there's the DNR, who recently gave us 109 bark bushes to put along the lot line where Habitat for Humanity built some houses. So there's a constant looking for how to bring the community in. And again, once kids get in there, we have our nature station in the back. And Steve, I wish you could come up to see the nature station and see the playful activities there are for kids to do. Because it's one of those things, again, yesterday I was up at the school and there's 3 boys sitting on the playground. And I said, hey, have you been up to the nature station? And the one boy who used to go to school there said, no, I haven't. And the other 2 boys said, hey, it's the bomb. You got to come up there. And, you know, so it's a way for them to engage with nature in a very playful way, where they're placed that space, you're creating that place for them to be so that they do feel comfortable and they're confident. So it's the community is key.
Nice. And so you are just, I don't recall we shared this, but you are a former teacher, you're retired.
I taught there for 2 decades, and it was my class that said, we are tired of teaching out of a science box. And, you know, we turned to LEAF and we turned to the programs that at the state had and redeveloped what we were doing. So we no longer teach science out of a box. And now we teach science out in the community. And with COVID, our school forest has become recess stations. So there's recess stations throughout the school forest. So yeah, so I'm retired, but I still coordinate the outdoor classroom.
Nice. That's fulfilling work. One more partner that I wanted to ask about that I heard a little bit about at the School Forest Awards ceremony is Groundswell. You
Oh my
said that
God,
they've
Groundswell, they're a nature conservancy program. And we discovered that we didn't own all of what we thought we owned. And so we had to negotiate with a developer who was going to build houses right in the midst of these beautiful red and white oak trees. And so Groundswell helped us raise the money, and they've become our partner in maintaining the property as well. So we were able to buy that new part, which got added to the school forest. And yeah, so they were there with their brush cutter. Like I said, after the goats were there, they came in with a brush cutter. And now Urban Tree Alliance will come in with their mulcher. And then our volunteers on Sunday will be mulching the paths. And
Wonderful.
Thursday we have, it's Wisconsin Garden Day. And we have the Lieutenant Governor, our state senator, and our state representative coming to the school to visit our garden, plant something in the green garden, and then also go up and look at our native garden, the native garden up in the school forest.
Wonderful. Thank you. I don't see any more questions in the chat. Does anybody on the call have any questions for Susie?
Well, if you're ever in Madison, come on over.
I do have a question for you. So one thing, so I am an environmental educator, so not a formal teacher, but one thing I'm always impressed with is when programs do such a great job of like really carrying on and championing, can't talk folks, something amazing like what you all are doing. Has it just become like part of the school culture then for you folks? Like, is it hard to like bring new folks in and have them embrace it? Or yeah, is there like that transitional period when you have to bring in a new human?
Melissa, when we first started this, all the teachers were on board. They all went through the training. They went through LEAF. They went through Project Tree. I mean, they went through all these different things. We had Gretchen at the school. And so we did a lot of training. Unfortunately, that was 10 years ago. And there are only 3 people left at the school from that original class of teachers. So all the new teachers are coming in, and we've had the opportunity to have UW Badger volunteers from the university here who have come in the last several years and taken small clusters of kids outside twice a week in the afternoon. And so the kids have gotten engaged in it, the new kids. And you know what? If you get kids engaged, it's hard not to engage the teacher. And now with COVID and teachers coming back, I think all of us were so ramped up to be outside again that with having our recess stations out there and having learning stations in the school forest, excuse me, And also having our AmeriCorps farmer with us, where she comes in and works with classes. I think now every class in the school is involved at some aspect of it. So, it's little by slow, we just got to keep at it, right?
Mhm.
Yep,
Yep, and
definitely. That's awesome.
thanks for that question, Melissa. And realizing that that's the reality that
Yep.
teachers move and, get different jobs and so forth. Leaf does have a step outside online class too. So if there are new teachers who, if we don't have a workshop in their area, they can sign up and do this online class. And the commitment for those is it's not a graduate credit or anything like that, but they're really wonderfully done. And we put those together quickly during COVID. And actually, yeah, that was Kate Flick who put those online courses together. And we have a new one on careers as well for those who teach maybe upper level courses.
Can I just ask, Melissa, where do you work?
I actually work with Steve at the Center for Environmental Education.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
But I am in a separate, one of our programs. So I'm in the energy education program.
Okay.
Yeah, Melissa rocks.
Good.
Yeah, she's game for this kind of thing, as is Jenny, who's also on the call.
Well, thank you for inviting me today.
You're welcome. And I see Carter's on the call. Carter, do you have any last minute questions or anything before we are finished today?
No, I'm just here along for the ride, just getting some tips and useful tricks and stuff. I wanted to hear about everything that you guys had to say. Yeah.
Great. Okay, well, glad you could join us. We actually had, I think about 16 people signed up, and it must be a nice day somewhere in the state, and or people just are waiting for the recording, which we will get out to them so that they can see our conversation. But since this is the last Tea and Tapas, I wanted to acknowledge and congratulate Dr. Kate Flick, who recently defended her dissertation at University of Minnesota. She created this Tea and Tapas series as a way to bring professional educators together to share ideas during the pandemic. We have needed this less formal professional opportunity. Thank you for the vision and soul you've put into this, Kate. The video of her dissertation defense is posted to the WCEE YouTube channel. And it's a fascinating look into ecocultural calendars as a place-based tool for climate change. I have to read that because it's hard for me to remember. But if you think about that and compare that to our topic here of educational stewardship communities, it makes perfect sense that Kate would develop this Tea and Tapas. And I would encourage you, if you have some time, to check out her dissertation defense because it's educational on a lot of different levels, and I really enjoyed it. And enjoy working with Kate as well at the center. So hopefully we can continue doing some of those things. All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us today.